Are you thinking of making a home purchase in 2024? Well, I have some incredible information for you. This video is the 5 things to avoid. You don't want to make mistakes if you are buying a house in Baltimore, Maryland. If you're new to my channel, welcome. You've come to the right place for all things Baltimore. Here we talk about the pros, the cons, the ins, the outs, living, working, thriving, playing in Baltimore, Maryland. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and you tap the bell for notifications so that you'll be notified as soon as there is new content on the channel. Hi, I'm Persia. I'm a local Maryland realtor. I work in Baltimore City as well as all of Baltimore Metro, so the surrounding counties. And I've been doing this for 4 years, helping people just like you who are looking to move to the Baltimore area. And I absolutely love it. So if you are thinking about making a transition to Baltimore, make sure to give me a call, send me a text message, shoot me an email. We can schedule a video call, and it would be my pleasure to help you make a smooth transition to Baltimore. Everyone knows purchasing a home is a big deal. It is one of the biggest financial commitments that anybody will make in their entire lives. And so we want to make sure that we are following all of the right guidelines and rules and thinking about the correct things when making such a big move. There are lots of things to know and lots of steps to take. And so in this video, what we're going to be talking about is 5 things to avoid if you are purchasing a home in Baltimore, Maryland in 2024. Now, make sure that you stay tuned to the end of the video because in addition to the 5 things, there are some other important things that I'm going to add to the list apart from those 5 that are really important to keep in mind. Because again, this is a really, really big transaction, a big thing in your life. So we want to make sure that you think about all of the pros and cons and pitfalls that can come with this move. Let's get started. Number 1 on the list of things to avoid if you are moving to Baltimore, Maryland is shopping for a house without a pre-approval. And I know we hear about this all the time. I see memes and like realtor stuff all the time. It's like, oh, this buyer wants to go out with a pre-approval. No way. And for me, I completely understand that sentiment. My reasoning for saying that you need a pre-approval first really doesn't have anything to do with me as your realtor and protecting me and my time. It has to do with protecting you. Now, why is it important to have a pre-approval before you go shopping for homes? There's a couple of reasons. First and foremost, a pre-approval lets you know how much home that you can afford and what type of loan product that you're qualified for. I think a lot of people, when they are first timers, don't realize that there are several loan products. We have conventional loans, we have FHA loans, we have VA loans, FDA loans, and all of these loans have different requirements, right? They have different credit score limits. They have different qualifications that you must meet in order to qualify. Some people don't realize that some homes can only be purchased with certain types of loans. For example, if a home needs a lot of work, right? If it's in disrepair, something like that, if it needs major renovations, you likely aren't going to be able to buy that home with an FHA or a VA loan. You're going to need a conventional loan or you're going to need cash. And so how would you even know if you're interested in this home and it's a fixer-upper, but you don't know what you're qualified for? You don't know what type of loan product you're qualified for. So it's really important to talk with a mortgage lender before starting this process so that you know what type of loan that you qualify for, and that will help you to know which homes are eligible for you to even look at and potentially write an offer on. So it's not only just about the type of loan product that you qualify for, it's also about the amount of home that you can afford, right? The worst thing in the world is to think that you can afford something more than what you really can, and you're out here looking at 500,000, 600,000 homes, these beautiful mansions, And then when you're ready to put an offer in, you talk to a lender and they're like, womp womp, like you only qualify for $100,000, right? We want to make sure that we're on the same page, and so that you as a consumer are not falling in love with all of these properties to then just be disappointed. And obviously nothing's going to compare if you were out here looking at $600,000 houses and all of a sudden now you can only qualify for $100,000, right? So a pre-approval and talking with the lender really sets the expectations and makes sure that you know exactly what you should be looking for so that everyone is on the same page. So since we're on the subject of lenders, there are two additional things that I want to talk about that are also things to avoid. So I'm kind of adding to the list. You get some bonuses. The first is using what I call a big box lender. And by big box lender, I mean lenders that are not specialized and local to the market that you are working in. So that could be using an online lender that is based in another state. That could be using a big bank. We all know some of the big banks that do not specialize in mortgages. They do everything, right? And so one of my tips is to avoid using these types of lenders. In my experience, big box lenders are not the way to go. Number one, they don't know the local market, right? Working with a local finance company, a local mortgage lender, will help you because they know the local market, right? They know all of the local programs that you might qualify for. They know the things to avoid. They know about the taxes and insurance and all of the things to keep an eye out for. Also, it makes a difference when it comes to your offer. I tell my clients all the time that putting together an offer for a house is like a college application. It's not just your SAT score. It's not just your grades. It is everything combined to make a picture of which offer they want to accept, right? So that's your, how much you're offering, that's your closing date, but it's also your lender. And sellers love to see local mortgage lenders rather than big banks or other big box type lenders. So keep that in mind. The other thing to avoid when it comes to talking to mortgage lenders is only talking to one of them. Okay, it is not going to hurt you in any way to chat with other lenders to make sure that you are getting the best rate, the best terms, and that the person that you're speaking with is somebody that you're actually going to want to work with. Because just like your realtor, your mortgage lender is going to be calling you, emailing you, texting you all the time because they need all of the paperwork. You think they need your arms and your legs and your firstborn child, but they're gonna ask you for a lot. So it's important that you pick somebody that you are comfortable with and confident with. And if you need sources of lenders that are reputable and that are good, your real estate agent or I can give you some really great recommendations of folks who are great to work with and who will definitely make sure to take care of you and that your deal goes to the closing table. Okay, let's move on to thing number 2 of something to avoid when you are shopping for a house, when you're looking to buy a house in Baltimore. And this is not giving yourself enough time. I have seen this time and time again. People are up on a lease or, have some other type of time pressure, and they are using that time crunch to kind of rush their home search, which is really a no-no. Here's the thing. In a regular market, the average is about 3 months for someone between the time they start looking for a home until they close on a home, right? 3 months. However, we are in a market right now in which inventory is historically low. This means that the amount of homes that are available are much lower than the amount of people who are out here looking for them, right? So that is sometimes extending the amount of time that it takes for someone to find an appropriate home just because of the fact that there's not a lot of inventory. There are not a lot of homes on the market. So people will see things coming on, but it's not meeting their criteria, or it's not in the right location, or, a million reasons why it might not be the one for them. So in a market like this one, things are taking more time. So my advice would be avoid waiting till the last minute. Avoid until you're just 1 month away from your lease expiring and you've decided to buy a house, right? Make sure that you're giving yourself some time to account for the fact that there is not a ton of inventory right now, and You don't want to rush a huge financial decision. You want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident every single step of the way, right? So being in a rush and feeling like, oh my God, I need to pick this and da da da, you will end up settling and you will end up being unhappy. And that's the last thing that I want, and that's the last thing that you want. So make sure to give yourself enough time to start the process. Okay, item number 3 on things to avoid when buying a house in Baltimore is waiting for the unicorn. What do I mean by the unicorn? Waiting for the perfect property that has every single thing on your checklist, that's absolutely perfect, and you're not gonna settle for anything less. That's what I mean. Now, there might be cases, lucky cases, where you find exactly what you're looking for at exactly the price you're looking for, the stars align, and everything works out, and that's amazing. But as I mentioned previously, we're in a low inventory market, right? So the amount of options are less than they are in other types of markets. And so the likelihood that a home that you're looking at has every single thing on your checklist is probably slim to none. There are going to be some items that you are going to have to compromise on. That's kind of just the way that it is. I would also say that it's important to realize, especially if it's your first home, a lot of times your starter home or your first home isn't going to be your forever home, and it's not going to be the home that kind of encompasses everything that's perfect. In some situations, it's better to find a home that has the majority of things that you're looking for, right? To start getting into the housing market, to put an offer in, to buy something that works for you and for your family for the most part, and then use that equity, maybe improve it over time so that it works better for what you need, so that maybe you can add some of those things on your checklist that it's missing. Or maybe you hold on to it for 5 years, for 7 years, and then you use the equity that you've built to roll it into another property that is your ideal home that meets all of your checklists. Or maybe you want to have something built. I think that waiting for perfection is a mistake, because what we're seeing in this market is, because of low inventory, because of the lack of land and housing and all of this, property prices are just rising. We're not in for a bubble. We're not in for a crash. Things are not going to appreciate as quickly as they did in COVID years, but things are still appreciating. We're up about 11% in Baltimore City over the previous year, which is pretty incredible, right? So I think that waiting until the housing market crashes or prices drop is just not happening. So instead, find a property that works for the majority of what you need, make it work until you can renovate it, until you can take the equity and move into something that's better suited for you and your family. Okay, next on the list of things to avoid if you are moving to Baltimore in 2024 is fixating on the house over the neighborhood. Okay, we hear this time and time again, location, 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 and it matters. And it matters especially in a jurisdiction like Baltimore City, where things can change quickly from block to block. It's important to know about the neighborhood. A lot of times I work with buyers or clients who are coming in from other places, maybe out of state, maybe from other towns in Maryland, and they will see these beautifully renovated properties, new kitchens, new bathrooms, like totally done up, but the entire neighborhood around it are boarded up and vacant houses. Now, that's not a big deal if you're okay with living in that circumstance, but it's also important to know that, especially in a place like Baltimore, where there are a lot of developing communities, there are a lot of places that are kind of in an in-between place where some of the properties are being renovated and being fixed up, whereas, they don't have the funds to do all of them all at once. You might be in a situation where you are looking at a place that looks absolutely gorgeous, but the neighborhood around it is a little bit lacking. So it's important to know about the neighborhood, to do your research, to know where you want to move, to know how much these houses are appreciating over time. All of this matters. I think sometimes people, especially younger people, sometimes get fixated on the aesthetics. So they want something that's turnkey and beautiful and ready to go, which is important. And I completely understand that. The first property that I purchased was renovated and beautiful, but it was also in a neighborhood that wasn't the greatest, but had potential, right? And when I sold my house, I didn't get the most appreciation for it, but it did appreciate, and I was able to walk away with some money when I sold it. So just do your research. Everybody has different ideas about what neighborhoods work best for them, and what's gonna be best for their family, what type of lifestyle that they wanna lead, right? I have tons of other videos on the channel about how Baltimore has over 200 distinct neighborhoods. And so some of these are very urban communities where you don't see trees, it's concrete and, marble stoops, and then others that have backyards and, things like that where you can walk to bars and restaurants. So doing the research on the type of lifestyle that you want, the type of neighborhood that you're moving into, and all of the statistics on the neighborhood are really important. So make sure that you're not just focusing on the aesthetics of the home, but that you also are doing your due diligence about the neighborhood that surrounds it. Okay, last on my list of number 5 is not picking a real estate agent that is familiar with the area, or not just picking an agent who is experienced in general. It's really important to pick an agent that knows the area like the back of their hand, that knows the neighborhoods, that knows the market statistics, and can properly advise you. It's also important that this agent has had experience doing transactions. I saw one statistic that was talking about agents this year, and it said half of all agents in 2023 only did like one deal or less. And I was like, wow, okay. You want an agent that has experience doing transactions because each house purchase, working with each client in each home is different, right? So you want somebody who has wealth of experience, someone who can advise you on what's going on, and somebody who just knows the area, knows how to work well with others, and really can be a resource for you. There are also some quirky things about Baltimore that only a good local agent will know. For example, there's something in Baltimore called ground rent. Have you ever heard of it? I never heard of ground rent until I moved to Maryland, but in some situations, homes have what is called ground rent. And what does that mean? It means that when you're buying a house, or the person who's selling it, they own the structure of the home, but they do not own the land underneath of it. Surprise, surprise, isn't that strange? So they don't own the land underneath of it, and they actually will pay a biannual rent to someone else who owns the land under their home. Now, if you're not working with an agent who's familiar with this area, and you're not working with somebody who's done a lot of transactions to have worked on a transaction on a house that has ground rent, you might not get the correct information, right? So things like that are really important to know. So who you work with matters. So that is the list of 5, but like I said, if you stick to the end, you're gonna get some additional information. So another thing to avoid is do not ignore the hidden costs of home ownership, okay? Your taxes. Baltimore City has pretty high taxes, and that is going to be incorporated into your mortgage payment. So make sure that whatever estimates you're getting from your lender include information on taxes. Also, homeowners insurance is a hidden cost that sometimes people don't think about that's going to be in their payment. All of your utility costs, all of those things go into how much you're paying every month. So don't let those costs sneak up on you. Other things to think about are the upfront cost, even before you buy the home, like the cost of a home inspection. Around here, home inspections cost more or less $500, but then there are also additional inspections that you should think about, like a sewer scope, because a lot of the homes around here are older, or radon inspections and things like that. So they all cost money, and you need to have money for them upfront, okay? Another upfront cost is your appraisal. You pay the bank for your appraisal before before you go to the closing table. So that's an upfront cost. Moving is an upfront cost, making sure that you can pay for a moving truck, for movers, for boxes. All of these things, do not let that slip, because if you're spending all your money on a down payment, it can feel really tight. So again, this is why you need to be prepared. Another mistake to avoid is making assumptions about the home buying process that are not true. One such assumption is that you need to put 20% down in order to buy a house, which is absolutely not the case. You do not need to put 20% down. The minimum that you can put down on a conventional loan is 3% of the purchase price, and for an FHA loan is 3.5%. And obviously you can pay more than that, which will reduce the amount of your mortgage and reduce your monthly mortgage payment, which is amazing. But I think sometimes people get caught up in thinking that buying a house is this really expensive process, that they need all of this cash and that they can't do it without it, when the reality of the situation is you can buy a house with as little as 3% down. So just be informed and make informed decisions so that you can build wealth for yourself and for your family. Don't get discouraged. Well, there you have it, the 5 things to avoid if you're wanting to buy a house in the Baltimore area in 2024. I hope that you found this informational and entertaining, I hope. If you have any questions, if you're thinking about making the move to Baltimore and you are needing a really great agent to assist you in the process, please send me an email, give me a phone call, you can send me a text message, and I am more than happy to reach out and help you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.